Many people aren't aware, but Ken Schwaber said that the daily stand-up or daily huddle in a Scrum meeting, also most commonly called and most officially called the daily Scrum, is the cornerstone of all Agile practices. He even went as far as to say that if you can master this meeting, that all the other meetings would kind of fall into place. It's just the way things flow. But sometimes it's often misunderstood why we do it and why it's effective and what impact it has. So today I thought I'd talk a little bit about how to change it from just being like a status report where people feel like they're obligated to be micromanaged into something that people can actually consume and enjoy. So I thought the best way to do this would be to talk about 10 myths. So we're going to talk about 10 myths that go along with the stand up, and we're going to talk about how we can overcome those myths. All right. Myth number one, a daily scrum must happen every morning. Okay, the reason why this is a myth is interesting. It's not a myth because it shouldn't happen every day. Well, it kind of is. There's a couple of instances where you would not do a daily scrum. So the first one would be if you're running a Kanban shop. So if you're doing all Kanban, all lean workflow, everybody's going to kind of just work and just do first in, first out. It's kind of evident to see what people are working on. Everything's small in size. Sometimes it does not make sense to kick in that daily scrum. So that would be one example. Another example would be on planning day. So if we know that we're having a planning day and everybody's going to be in planning, I don't know that there's a need to do a daily scrum on a planning day. What's the use of having everyone come in and say, hey, today I'm going to be in planning for a large portion of the day? It just doesn't make sense. And you'll be talking enough that you'll kind of get the gist of what's going on, right? So I don't want it to be a daily scrum just for the purpose of having a daily scrum. I want it to be a daily scrum so that everyone feels like they're getting on the same page and that they're all working together towards a common goal. As far as frequency is concerned, daily is kind of important, or else it wouldn't be called a daily scrum. Okay. Myth number two, the meeting must strictly adhere to 3 questions. That is false, mostly because the 3 questions that are published are the wrong 3 questions. I think that many organizations who are trying to get in the practice of doing this effectively should adhere to 3 questions. And the 3 questions are, did you finish the things that you completed to do yesterday? And if not, what did you do instead? What did you do as part of your review? The second question is, what do you commit to complete today? So you're kind of setting goals and making goals more so than being micromanaged, right? And then the third question is not a question at all. I think most people get confused by this because they consider it an interview. The third question is, if you have an issue or a problem, why'd you wait until now to talk about it? And I know that sounds kind of weird, but you don't want to wait until this meeting to talk about the obstacles. The number one time to talk about the obstacles is when it's happening so that you can overcome those obstacles and achieve your goal. But so many people just wait for this meeting because they feel like that's the third question, so that's the appropriate time to talk about it. Once teams mature, they oftentimes veer away from the questions and just talk openly about the subject matter of those 3 questions, which is also perfectly acceptable. All right, myth number 3, the stand-up is a status meeting in disguise. That is also false. We don't want this ever, ever, ever to feel like a status meeting. If the stand-up feels like a status meeting, you're doing something wrong. Oftentimes, it just means you have the wrong audience. You get the wrong people involved, the wrong people invited. So you want to make sure you have the right people invited so it does not sound like a status meeting. Myth number 4, no problem should be solved during a meeting. It was Ken Schwaber who said, quote, this meeting should be 30 seconds per person, not to exceed 15 minutes. And if you can solve a question or an issue in 30 seconds or less during this meeting, solve the freaking problem, was his exact words, right? If you can solve it, solve the problem. It's so important for you to be able to do problem solving. Now, if it's going to be something long-winded, you want to make sure if it's something long-winded that you take it offline and solve it at a different time. But as long as it's something that you can solve right away, you should solve that problem. Yes? All right. Myth number 5, the meeting must be a maximum of 15 minutes long. That's a myth for a reason you might not believe. The reason that's a myth is because it should be 30 seconds per person, not to exceed 15 minutes. If your meeting's taking a full 15 minutes, you're doing something wrong. So this is just a great way, whether you're huddling with your family, whether you're huddling with your teams, it doesn't matter who you're huddling with. You just want to make sure you kind of have a good understanding of where everybody is and what their intended plan is. What do they commit to do? All right, the Scrum Master and Product Owner must attend. This is myth number 6. Now, the reason I say that is because there are times where the product owner doesn't attend, and that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. There are days where the Scrum Master doesn't attend. It doesn't mean the meeting's canceled. The team should be able to pick up where the product owner and Scrum Master left off, and they should be able to operate this meeting without them being present. So it's not something where you have to have those people present. The team should be able to talk to each other and they should be fine. All right, let's go with myth number 7. Myth number 7 is that only verbal communication is allowed. That's also false. A lot of times people like to come in and you can always read body language. Now, if a team's doing Kanban, maybe they do want to pull up a Kanban board. Oftentimes, I discourage you from pulling up a tool because I don't want the whole subject to be about the tool, right? I want it to be something where you're talking beyond the tool about what's going on in your life. Myth number 8, stand-ups are ineffective for remote teams. That is absolutely false. In fact, I'll take it one step further. I think it's even more important to have it with remote teams than it is to have it with local teams. Because if everybody's online in different parts of the world, it's good to get everybody together. And I do encourage you to keep your cameras on because it's good to see people's faces. But it's the only way that you'll make those connections that you normally couldn't make otherwise. And finally, myth number 9, we should check off user stories and tasks during a meeting. We should pull up a tool and do that. That's absolutely false. If you're spending all of your time, looking at a tool, everybody's going to be focused on the tool and nobody's going to be listening to each other. The whole point of this meeting is communication and collaboration. In the words of my friend Vanilla Ice, he said, stop, collaborate, and listen. It's important for you to stop what you're doing for a few minutes, collaborate with your team, and listen to what's going on. If you can do those types of things, if you can use the stand-up as a method of communication, alignment, and planning, if you can allow for discussion to flow more naturally and focus on achievements, if you can address and define problems quickly, like 30 seconds or less, if you can use tools like video conferencing, Zoom, whatever, Teams, etc., to engage remote teams effectively and focus on effectiveness and outcome instead of output, because you want to realize an impact, and then empower the team to conduct this meeting independently, you can definitely have power in this because you're going to see enhanced communication. You're going to see teams that work better together. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care. Bye now.